Hey there, welcome back to this week's episode of the C-Town Podcast, where Seattle business owners, entrepreneurs, and community leaders are invited on to share their stories with us. I'm your host, Christian Harris. This week's episode of the C-Town Podcast is brought to you by C-Town Real Estate. Their mission to make a difference extends beyond just their unique and unconventional approach with their clients and their agents. They partner with the community to give back a percentage of the proceeds from each home sale to a local nonprofit of their client's choice. Visit ctown.com, sea-town.com, and experience the difference with C-Town Real Estate today. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the C-Town Podcast. Today I'm joined by Lora Swift, who is famously known for running Hotwire Coffee back in the day and is now the executive director of the Junction Association. It's also, or most recent title, you might say, is the 2008 winner of the West Sider of the Year Award, put on by the West Seattle Chamber, so that's pretty exciting. Well, thank you for joining us today, Lora. I appreciate your time.
Oh, well, I'm excited to be here. It's a wonderful day to have a podcast.
Indeed.
I know.
So tell us a little bit about where you're at in things right now. So you're the executive director of the Junction Association, which does tons of stuff. What's
Yes.
Can you give us an overview of that, since you've kind of taken over that role, a couple years ago?
Yes, I took it over in August of 2016, and I have just really enjoyed being the director of the Junction. A little bit of history is when I started Hotwire in 2002. The Junction Association director at that time was 3 directors ago, Kay Necton. She was in the Junction, and someone had told me to go and talk to her about possibly finding a location in the Junction itself, because I knew there was no other place I wanted to be. So
Sure.
I popped into her office and talked to her back in, oh my goodness, early 2001. And she told me about this adorable little spot right in the Junction next to the post office. And so I just popped right on over there, and there's a little sign on the door, and they said, hey, we're looking for someone to build a coffee shop. And I thought, wait, I want to build a coffee shop too, and I already had the business plan. So she was actually instrumental in helping me find my landlord, who I had there for 13 years before I sold the coffee shop.
Sure.
So there's a long history there.
Sure. I don't think I realized you owned the coffee shop that long. I mean, it's obviously iconic, right next to the post office there.
It is.
Known for the outdoor movie nights, which the Junction is still doing. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. So I took it over in the movies. I took over in year 1. And I ran it as a volunteer for the Junction. I was also on the board of directors for the Junction Association the entire time I owned Hotwire. So I have kind of like a long history, with the Junction. So anyway, so I took it over as a volunteer, and I ran the West Seattle Outdoor Movies for 12 years as a volunteer. And then as the director of the Junction, I still run the movies. I don't know, what the heck. So now I run the movies as the director of the Junction itself. So, yeah. So.
And now, am I correct to say that you also started or co-founded the West Seattle Art Walk?
That is correct.
Okay, and now that's kind of taken over by the Junction Association as well?
Yes, it's kind of weird. How funny this is, isn't it? So yeah, so I got involved in the Art Walk about a year and a half into its infancy, and when I took it over, it was myself and a motley ragtag of artists, and the pastor of West Seattle Christian Church, Dan Jacobs, and John Schmersh from Click Design That Fits, and we all kind of banded together around it, and we started the Art Walk. And when we first started it, it was just us going around to businesses asking if they would give us $25 for a quarter. And I would go back into the most powerful publishing software ever known to man, and woman, which is Microsoft Publisher.
Yes.
Yeah, so powerful. And I would create this little map in my office, and then Dan from West Seattle Christian would then take it to the little photocopier and photocopy it off on colored paper.
Okay.
And then John from Click would then walk around and give little maps to everybody who was participating. So that's how we started the art walk.
Okay, and it's come a long way since then.
A little way. We have color
Yep.
and InDesign
Yep.
now. So
And a
that's
sign-up page for the businesses.
I know we have.
It's
Yeah, we have a
very
little
high-tech.
page.
Yeah.
We have a website now. It's
Yep.
very exciting. So that is coming. Like that project has ebbed and flowed over the years. When I took it back over as the director, we were down to about 9 businesses. So I kind of like gathered all of the old school people together, and we kind of re-engineered the art walk. Where now we're up to, I think we're up to about 38 now, which is good.
Nice,
But what
yeah.
we did is I folded in restaurants and bars as well.
Sure.
So you can go get a happy hour glass of wine or little bite to eat, and then go out and check out
Sure.
the art walk. So.
Sure. That's smart to include businesses that already have food and wine. Can,
Oh yeah, I mean, who doesn't want extended happy hour wine?
Yeah,
Hello,
for sure.
right?
Yep. Now, for our listeners who may not know,
Yes.
I mean, you and I are pretty involved in the West Seattle Chamber and
We are,
and
yes.
whatnot. So I'm fortunate enough to kind of know what the Junction Association does. But for those who may not know, maybe you could tell some of our community what the Junction is all about.
I were actually formed in the 50s, and the reason we were formed was actually to help a group of people pay for the Junction parking lots. So
Okay.
people know the free parking
Mhm.
in the Junction parking lots, and so we were formed actually to help pay for those.
Okay.
And from that point forward, we just kind of like, it was an evolution. We eventually formed a BIA, which is a business improvement area. We're one of a number of BIAs in Seattle, and we are sanctioned, I guess, so to speak, by the city of Seattle. And what we do is we collect a little bit of money from each of the Junction merchants, and it goes into a nice little fund for us. And from there, we pay for the parking lots.
Okay.
And then we also fundraise. We fundraise about 50% of our budget. So
Oh, wow,
50% of it pays for the parking lots, and then the other 50% we fundraise, grants, sponsorships.
Uh-huh.
So when I come to you, I'm like, Christian, you need to sponsor this, man.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm
being,
all in.
being serious here. You
Yep.
need to.
Indeed.
So what we do is then we take all of those funds and we put them together. We pay for the lots, but we also pay for a lot of the events that West Seattle has really grown to love. The biggest one is Summerfest. It's coming up in
Indeed.
July.
Yep.
I've got to take a sip of water because I just get kerflumped thinking about it. Oh my God. Is Summerfest coming up in July,
Uh-huh.
which I'm very excited about. We close the streets, see what happens.
Yeah.
So we have free music for that,
Mhm.
and we have all of those lovely vendors, and we have Green Life. This year we have some new gaming tents.
Really?
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of exciting.
Okay.
We're going to do things like, we already have a giant Jenga, so I inherited a lot of things, and my muse, so to speak, was his giant Jenga game. And I thought, man, giant Jenga, that's awesome. What else can I make giant? So I bought some cornhole things
Uh-huh.
that came from like the East Coast. They're not actually giant. But then this year, I'm going full on giant. So this year we're going to have giant checkers
Okay.
that
that's always
people
fun.
can play in
Yeah.
the streets. Very exciting. We're going to have giant beer pong.
How's that work?
I'm not sure yet. It's going to be giant.
Okay.
It's going to be so giant,
So the
super
beer's
giant.
giant as well.
It's going to be giant, yeah, giant beer pong.
Okay.
But my favorite thing we're going to giant this year is a giant battleship tournament.
Okay.
So imagine you can do like battleship, right?
Mhm.
But it's like 3 feet tall. So it's going to be kind of exciting.
That's quite interesting. Is it going to be interspersed in the tents and stuff, or off to
Yeah.
the side? Or?
Yeah, in the gaming
Okay.
tents, yeah.
Tents, okay.
And then we're going to have giant Connect 4,
Okay.
some other giant things.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it wasn't fun before,
But it's going to be giant fun.
it's going to be giant fun.
It's going to be giant fun now.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of going back a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you've been involved with the Junction Association for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But what would motivate you to give up your baby, your business, Hotwire Coffee, and sell that, and then kind of get into the role officially full time as executive director of the Junction Association?
That is a good question. That one is, people ask me that all the time, so I will tell you the answer to that. So with Hotwire, you and I think have very similar values as business owners. Like, I know, I'm going to interview you for just a second here. I know that you work with certain nonprofits and you give back a little bit of your commission. So currently it's Westside Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have other nonprofits that are coming up? Or you can't tell me yet.
Officially, that's we partner quarterly. But if anyone comes to us and says, "Hey, I heard about you through this nonprofit,"
Yep.
we'll donate 25%.
I love
So
that.
it doesn't have to be an official sanctioned nonprofit per
Okay.
se.
So you base your business on community involvement.
Yes, we are doing real estate for something bigger than just, helping people buy and sell houses is great, but doing it for bigger purpose is even better.
Right. And so what you and I both love, I think, is that sense of community building.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Hotwire, that's how I built Hotwire Coffee. I built it from community. That's
Sure.
why I took over the movies.
Okay.
That's why I jumped in and reinvigorated Art Walk the first time around, and now as the executive director the second time. I partner with a lot of nonprofits. We did food drives, and we did community drives and clothing drives, and we had giving trees at Christmas.
Yeah.
We gave away portions of our profit to nonprofits as well.
Nice.
And in addition to that, I also had a lot of customers that use the coffee shop as a source of their own community as well. We have people like get married through the coffee shop, and I've seen children from baby to walking across the threshold,
Yeah.
to looking over the counter, to being taller than me.
Yeah.
So for me, Hotwire represented like this community gathering place for our neighbors and for West Seattle, but also a way for me to really work with nonprofits and appreciate the work that they're doing. So what I found was what I wanted to achieve in my life, as I kind of went through my own journey, I found that I could do something different if I kind of changed what I was doing at that particular time. And also I'd owned the coffee shop for a long time. I'm no spring chicken, Christian, I can tell you that. I'm no
What?
spring chicken.
No.
I know. And eventually it begins to it just begins to just wear down.
Sure.
That physicality of working all the time. And so it was just this amazing sequence of events. Some customers of mine who I saw their children, Sam. I saw Sam and their other child, August, grow up through the coffee shop. They own a bakery, a beautiful, gorgeous bakery, couple of bakeries actually. And the owners the couple is just super smart, just great business owners. They have great community spirit. And so one day I was chit-chatting with them, and I said, I'm thinking about selling the coffee shop. I want to go back to school for nonprofit management. And it was literally Jeff, the husband. He said to me, we were outside by the dumpster, very classic, outside the dumpster,
like a movie
back
scene.
of Hotwire, right? Yeah. And he's like, Lora, he goes, we will buy Hotwire. I'm like, what? He goes, yes. He goes, we would be honored to buy the coffee shop and take over this work that you've been doing. And I was like, all right. So we, kind of worked on that little piece, and then a space opened up. I was accepted back into the University of Washington, into their nonprofit management program. And so as that was starting in my first quarter, our current executive director, who has a background in forestry, nonprofit management and forestry, she received a job from a place that really aligned with what she was doing. And so the board of directors, they came to me and they're like, so do you want to take over the Junction? People know you. You're in school for this. We understand what your values are. We feel that you do a really good job. We've known you for all these years. And so I was like, sure, that sounds great. And so that's how it worked. I sold the coffee shop. I finished school working for the Junction part-time. And then once I graduated from school, I stepped into the director's role in late 2016, and here we are in 18.
Yep.
And there you have it.
There you go.
That's the story.
Pretty crazy sequence of events.
I know, but it just worked.
That's
like,
awesome.
When you decided to start C-Town, right?
Yep.
It just somehow it worked.
Sure, things just fell into place.
It just falls into place. And if you force it, I think you really have to understand what you could possibly be missing. Maybe this isn't the right time.
Sure.
Or you have to really think through, why are you pushing this down this road?
Right.
And so it fell into place with some hard work.
Sure.
But it fell into place.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got kind of a two-part question here.
Okay.
What was it like going back to
here.
school after owning a business and, not being 20? Was that very different, or was it?
What do you mean not being 20?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like when I first went to college, I was
Yes.
in my 30s.
Right.
And everyone else was way younger than me. And it was
Right.
way different than
Right.
when I was in high school and everyone was peers, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like for you? I mean, was it fine, normal?
It was, it was tough. It was night school, so I could still run the shop and still work.
Sure.
It was a challenge, going back to school, figuring out how to study again.
Sure.
Did you find discipline, having the discipline to study and to make room for study?
Can change your rhythm a little bit, yeah.
Yes, it did. It certainly did. But you're right, to be an adult, aging adult, going back to school, going back to school with kids, young adults, should I say, with young adults, it felt strange. First of all, you felt like, I don't know if you felt this way, but you felt a little out of place. You're like, I don't know if I belong. Do I belong here? Do I wear my backpack? Is it on one shoulder or is it two?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, things have changed since I was in school last time.
Things have changed a little bit, but you have to just break through that and understand that the spirit of educating yourself in a whole different way is important if you are going to honor the next phase of your life, or the next season, or the position that this board of 12 has put their faith in my ability to lead our organization in a way that I feel it's going. But to have that ability, that nonprofit background, to lead it as a nonprofit, and to really dig into what that means now is important. And so some days were really hard. The traffic was really bad, or you didn't understand the subject, or you felt like you were in over your head. You just have to dig in and figure out how to push through it and to honor the commitment that you've made to these folks that are looking at you to lead in an effective way, and to honor yourself as well. Like, you have to honor your own commitment and say, this is what I wanted to do. So I'm just going to work. All I need to do is just work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
I need to read a little bit more. I need to do a little bit more research. So I am absorbing this material, and then I can turn it around and use it for good.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah.
The second part of the question is,
Yes.
once you graduate school and were acting in the role full time,
Yes.
For the Junction Association, was there anything you found unexpected in that, or kind of most surprising aspect of taking on that role?
That is interesting. This is the most surprising thing. And as small business owners, we tend to be agile in the way that we run our business. We can, if something happens, like if all the power went out right now in this podcast, as the business owner, you would know kind of what to do. You'd use like, okay, we need to check the electrical panel, and we need to do this, and we need to see if the lights are out. And you as a small business owner, because there's no one else who's going to be able to figure that out, you have to figure it out yourself. You have to be very mentally agile. You have to be quick on your feet mentally. You have to know what to do, or who to call, or how to solve things, because there's nobody around you to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And so with that, you create you effectively create this small business playbook in your head that brings your business online very quickly. Like you figure it out real quick. You don't let it get you down, because no one's going to solve it for you.
Yeah.
So I was able to bring those skill sets with me, the ability to pivot as a small business owner. But what I found was, when you're dealing with municipalities or the city, and I love the city, don't get me wrong, like working with the city of Seattle has been a joy, especially with the Office of Economic Development. They fold you in and they surround you, and they give you resources that I never even knew existed as a small business owner. But
agile they are not.
Agile aside, it was a learning curve for me. Like, if I say, okay, I'll give you an example. So our first hometown holidays, which is where we light up Junction Plaza Park, which is our pocket park, and we light up the tree, and all the lights are beautiful, and everything is gorgeous, and you're super happy to see all of these twinkling lights, and you're just ready to give a great event to our community. Well, I'm standing there looking at all the lights, all the trees are trimmed and everything looks gorgeous. Randomly, the sprinklers turned on. In December, I'm like, so people are going to show up in just a few hours, and the sprinklers are on. Don't know why. I was like, okay, so what are you going to do? So as a small business owner, you'd be like, oh, I've got the key to the sprinkler box. I'm just going to I'm going to find the spigot thingy, and I'm going to turn that bad boy off and turn those damn sprinklers off. Like, something is going to happen, and I'm going to fix it, and I am not going to have these sprinklers on during hometown holidays. Well, I come to find out that the little box where the sprinkler little knob thingy is locked. It's like, okay. So I call Parks. I'm like, okay, who do I talk to at Parks? And after 7 or 8 people, I finally get someone on the line. I'm like, hey, sprinklers are on. Where's the key for me to turn this off? I need the key to the lock so I can unlock this box and turn. Yeah, you don't get a key to the box. I'm like, okay, well, someone needs to come from Parks, and they need to turn it off, because I have people coming in now 45 minutes to enjoy hometown holidays, and the sprinklers are on. Well, after many discussions, many phone calls, I finally had Parks show up to unlock the lock, to open the box, to turn the knob, to turn the sprinklers off. And so it's things like that where you are so accustomed to being agile, like, okay, I'll just turn the sprinklers off, to have to go through those different layers of people to get to that end result
Sure.
was probably the biggest challenge
I could see that being frustrating. Yeah.
that I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
To kind of get back into maybe like your life personally a little bit, did you grow up here in Seattle or what?
No, I didn't. I've been in Seattle for 17 years.
Okay.
I only knew that because I looked on my little LinkedIn profile earlier today. I was like, God, I've been here for 17 years. How's that possible?
And where did you hail from?
Well, I actually, you maybe cannot pick this up in my accent, but I hailed from a country far, far away from here. So after 5 years of braces, if that gives you any kind of a hint, where do you think I grew up?
Braces.
We're known for the crooked teeth in this country.
UK?
Yes!
Okay.
So I am actually a British citizen.
Really?
I'm still
Born there?
British, yeah. I'm
Okay.
still a British citizen.
Huh.
And I came to this country when I was 11 years old.
I never would have
Was
guessed.
processed
Okay.
through New York,
Okay.
through JFK, and I have been here since I was 11. I actually went to high school in Chimacum Cowboys, yay, Chimacum Cowboys. Chimacum Cowboys, and from that point forward, I kind of went back and forth between the two countries for a while,
Okay.
kind of deciding where I wanted to permanently live. And so I ended up back in the United States, and here I am.
Okay. What was there like a specific defining moment that made you decide, okay, I think I'm gonna get my roots here in the U.S.?
Come back. Well, let's see here. What was the defining moment? My mom and dad are here, and my dad retired from my mother is a British citizen, now naturalized, but my father is an American, and he retired from the American Navy, and they had a child and settled here. And the Pacific Northwest is a lot like England.
Okay.
So in climate and in culture. So I decided that this was the place to just kind of like settle in. That's
Okay.
what I did.
All right.
Stayed here.
As you've continued in your role as the executive director, have you discovered like a greatest strength of yours, or something that really helps with the success of your role?
Well, again, just like you, I have brought with me my sense of community. I feel there is a awful lot of power in working together. And so one thing that I wanted to accomplish, just like, with everybody, each person has their thing, their flavor, I guess, that they put over their, their position, is what I found was the fact that our neighborhood groups, we were working independently of each other. To use a corporate word, we were siloing. And I'm not down with the silo.
Sure.
I'm not down with that way of being in an amazing place like West Seattle.
Yeah. Get down with the collaboration.
Yeah, right. Yeah, get all in. And roll your sleeves up and just get crazy with collaboration. In fact, one of the things that I first worked on was our dear CEO, Lynn Dennis, who is now a great friend of mine. And I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, who should I start with? Because I'm going to break these walls down, because this is crazy pants.
Yeah.
So I called Lynn Dennis, and we had coffee together. And now we are great friends, and we work together on a number of initiatives, and including a grant that we wrote. I talked her into this grant that we did last year. And so that was a lot of fun. And from there, we did the reuse, recycle. And now she works with me on Summerfest. She has the blue shirts.
Yep.
And Harvest Fest. And I go, because I am a giver and I sacrifice I go to the after hours with the chamber.
Yes, that's definitely the hardest of the events to
It's tough.
get down with. Yes,
It's a tough one,
Yep.
but I do it for my community.
right.
I do it for you, West Seattle Junction.
Yep,
Yeah.
and the drinks.
I do, and the drinks. And you had a great one here.
It was fun. I tried to step it up a notch. We
You did.
substituted the beer for cocktails, so that seemed to be a hit.
And you did a cocktail. What was the cocktail you did?
I did. I think I did old fashions and Manhattans, which are kind of my go-to classic. I agree.
But what I found with the Junction is we were all merchant community forward, and the chamber is like business to business forward.
Sure.
And so when Lynn and I, like Wonder Powers, activated, right? So
Yep.
when we activated, Lynn and I, we discovered that we could do both effectively as independent neighborhood groups.
Sure.
So that's what we did.
Okay. No, I like that distinction. I didn't really think about that. I mean, you think about the role of a chamber versus the Junction Association.
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of geared towards the community versus B2B.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, but
She-
they could be
right.
Mutually beneficial for sure.
And she does things that I couldn't even imagine. And I do the big events and then invite Lynn and the blue shirts to hang out with me.
Yep.
And they go around Summerfest and they take pictures, they do the pictures and they do the signs for chamber members. So it certainly helps you be at Summerfest as a chamber member because people are looking at those signs like, oh man, they're like part of the chamber.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. And then I do other things. I'm on the board of directors for the senior center.
Mhm.
I believe in what the senior center is accomplishing with folks, not only who are aging, but people in general,
Yeah.
their sense of community. I really like how they have aligned with, what they can give to our community. And then I'm also on the Southwest District Council, which I hope Mayor Durkin will bring back. I know those were dissolved in the previous administration, and I believe strongly in what neighborhoods can do together.
Yeah.
So I hope those are re-sanctioned and reformed. So we've kept ours going, Southwest District Council, so we meet.
Nice.
And then I'm also part of Juno, which is the Junction Neighborhood Organization. And those are the folks that are really making a difference with MHA and HALA. So
Okay.
they do a lot of outreach with policy,
Okay.
which I just don't have the capacity to do. But I'm part
Sure.
of Juno, and I weigh in as the Junction Association when needed.
Okay.
And then we're part of the discussion with ST3, that tiny little train
Yeah.
that's going to come over here before we know it.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you have it.
That's good stuff. I didn't realize you're involved in so many things. I wasn't even aware of Juno. I've just more recently become more acquainted with HALA and that sort of that aspect of the real estate community development stuff.
Yes.
So it's a pretty interesting world.
That's important, I think, for
Yep.
realtors to really pay attention to, because that density is going
yeah.
to change
Yep.
an awful lot.
Right. You don't realize how big of a difference for good or bad, the zoning and HALA and kind of all those policies can have on affordable housing and density and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
One thing that I really appreciate about you, and maybe it's because I resonate with this, you're definitely a connector. You see a need or someone that can, use a certain service or benefit from knowing someone else, and you don't hesitate to reach out and connect those people. And I love that. I kind of like to do the same thing.
It's important. It's important. When you started Seatown, did you evolve into that, or did you make that was a realized goal of yours? Like, I'm going to start this real estate firm, and this is going to be one of the foundational goals of my business. Is to connect.
When I got into real estate, I had no intention of starting my own firm, but a couple years into it, I kind of realized if I want to be able to affect the impact I want to in the industry and for my clients, and kind of do the outside the box thinking and stuff, that I was going to have to do my own thing. So it was only really a year before I started the brokerage that I had the plan and whatnot. And so, but community involvement, philanthropy, doing exceptional service, just kind of doing everything hopefully better than the majority of what I see out there was kind of the goal. So obviously there's a lot of paths that can take, and figuring things out only a year and whatever into it. So.
And are you glad? I mean, when you look, it's been hard, right?
Yeah, it's been hard, but I love it. I mean,
yeah.
I'd much rather come in here and be able to affect my destiny and help my agents than go into an office and just
right,
kind of nug away at something. So.
And do you work with people who are brand new to? Now, see, I'm turning this around now.
I know, what is this?
I know, it's exciting. Well, because I want to know, because I'm really interested.
Sure.
So, do you take people who are fresh out of real estate school and you're like, oh my gosh, I could really help this person create this amazing life and help other people find homes that are going to be life changers?
Yeah, that's what I prefer. It's obviously the harder route. Well, in some regards, the harder route, because you got to teach them everything.
Right.
But then you're not having to unteach them maybe bad habits or lazy habits they might have picked up along the way.
Yep.
But I really enjoy that, and the majority of brand new agents that have come here have been because they see what we're doing with the philanthropy and giving back and doing things different, and it really resonates with them.
Yep.
And that was really the goal in the first place, was how do I position myself and lead with the why and the values so that people are drawn to me, both agents and clients, as opposed to typical sales where I'm pursuing and chasing people.
Right, it's more organic this way.
Right. So it's a lot harder. It takes a lot more strategy. It takes a lot longer, but
it does take.
Well worth it. Huh? How about you? Gonna get back on you. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you're doing. You kind of discovered that, relatively early on. You went back to school for that to better equip you, and then you stepped into that role, full force. I mean, would you say that those values have changed, or just kind of the implementation of them?
No, I think I took a big part of myself with Hotwire when I left, and I have to say that I am grateful that the transition was smoother for me, to know that I, number one, was leaving Hotwire in good hands, in good community hands. But number two, I was stepping into a role where I could do different good. I could still do good, but it was going to look a little bit different.
Sure.
But what I found with my values is they remained steadfast. And what I did is I just applied my, who I already was in a different way. One of the first things that I did was create a formalized volunteer program.
Okay.
So again, it goes back to those values. I believe in gathering people together, gathering for a common cause. And if you give them the tools to be successful and to succeed, a lot like with your realtors and how I ran the coffee shop with my staff.
Yeah.
If you give them those tools to succeed and you give them the ability to achieve, they will.
Yeah.
And they will achieve like you couldn't even imagine. And so what I did with our volunteer program, because I'm the only paid employee.
Okay.
So I'm the only person there. So I knew that I had to surround myself with people who were extremely talented to begin with, and also surround myself and the Junction with a team of people who believed in what we were accomplishing as merchants. Mm-hmm. And so I formalized a volunteer program, and from the very moment those, my very first group of volunteers came together, and I do quarterly volunteer orientations. You can choose to come to the office and quarterly, come hang out with me for 45 minutes and we'll talk about what we can accomplish. Uh-huh. Or you can just hop onto our volunteer page and just sign up for, the, a task,
okay.
Part of the programming.
Sure.
But from the very second I formalized that, I was shocked at first of all, the number of people who were looking for a sense of community, especially for you. This is super interesting. New people who are renting apartments in the Junction.
Sure.
And as an aside, I just figured this out the other day. We have 21 apartment buildings within our BIA.
Right, and more being built.
Yeah, more and more being built. So imagine all of those people coming into West Seattle didn't really know how to dig into community.
Mm-hmm.
They see this opportunity to really give in their community, and people were coming and signing up for the volunteer program in droves. And the number one, when I talked to people, I said, well, why did you sign up? What do you want out of this? Because I want to make sure that I'm a steward of what they expect.
Sure.
Their number one was, well, we didn't know what else to do. We want a sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
We want a way to give our time to a nonprofit. So now what I do is I have folks that are volunteering with the Junction, but they also volunteer with the West Seattle Food Bank and Westside Baby and the Helpline and all of the ways people can really dig in and create like this amazing difference by just giving time.
Yeah.
Just giving time. That's all you're asking.
Sure.
It's just give a few hours, and the number of people that do that is really powerful. So I took those values with me. Like
Sure.
they're a part of you.
Yeah.
You can't help it. You can't help yourself, but do that.
I love that. That's great. Kind of heading into the final round here, like it's kind of the lightning round. Just we'll do some quick questions, quick answers.
Okay.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
That I've ever what?
Received?
Best advice I've ever received is to be mindful. So often, especially in this, the world that we live in now, people will ask questions to not receive, but to respond.
Sure. Just wait for the other person to stop talking so they can talk.
Exactly. But I'm talking right now, Christian.
Right. I'm sorry. I interrupted. Yeah. I was just waiting to talk.
I was actually talking. But now you talked, so.
I ruined it.
Whatever.
Good advice. I should heed it.
Yeah, whatever, Christian. So to be mindful and to be respectful of the words that people are saying at this particular time. It's often easy to want to fill in silences and also to ask a question to respond. But to be mindful and to be present at this particular moment, and like right now in this room, in this podcast, for me to be mindful and respectful of the fact that you thought about who I would like to interview for my podcast. So for me, I am mindful and respectful of your time. And so I am going to sit here and I am going to read the material that you sent me twice, the PDF, and be respectful of what you are trying to achieve as a person, as a community connector, and as a fellow business owner. So my advice is to be mindful and to slow down and to be present in this particular moment right here.
That makes me want to not rush on to the next question.
I know, but we can.
Okay. What is a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Personal habit, I would say, is I am organized. So if you want to be organized but you're not sure where to start, I would recommend this online board. It is free and it's amazing, and it's called Trello. Trello.
I use it.
See, you use it, and it takes all of the things that are inside your noodle and it puts it into a virtual Post-it note, like vision board.
Yeah.
And I use that a lot. And what I try to do is when something comes across my desk, whether it be a piece of paper or an email, I try to only touch it once, and I look at it, I'm mindful of it, I process it, and I put it where it needs to go, and I don't touch it again until it needs to, until it's due.
Do you listen to podcasts?
I do.
What's your favorite?
Yours?
Oh, you don't have to say that.
Gosh. I like the Good Life Project.
Okay.
And I like Joan Gary. Good Life Project and Joan Gary are also nonprofit driven.
Okay.
As well.
Do you have a favorite movie?
I do. So, my favorite movie is Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, so good.
Right. So strange, so dry.
Yep. Very British.
Very British. Have a pint.
Yep.
Right? Go to the Winchester, have a pint, and wait for everything to blow over, which is a good philosophy sometimes. Sometimes doing nothing is sometimes the best thing.
Yep.
But I like Shaun of the Dead.
Okay.
In fact, a little known factoid, a couple years ago, I dressed up as Shaun from Shaun of the Dead.
Okay.
Not real blood. Red food dye, little name tag, red tie, white shirt.
That's hilarious. Did many people get it?
A lot of people got it.
That's good.
Yeah, it was the name tag.
Sure.
For some reason, it was the name tag that brought the whole outfit together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was Shaun of the Dead.
Love that. I love dry British humor.
Mm-hmm.
If you could recommend just one book to our listeners, what would it be?
Oh, that's good. I've just read, actually, I'm reading his second book. I'm reading Homo Sapiens. And I love the book because it's insightful and it's well written. And I like books that that make you think. Like, it really makes you think about how we evolved as tribes of Homo sapiens. And one thing I learned from the book, I learned many things, but one thing I learned is one of the reasons that we kind of like took over the planet, and sometimes that's not a good thing, right? Is we were able to evolve and communicate with other tribes who were not like us. So unlike most animals, they are like, hey, I know you. You're like my family, or you're part of my tribe. Like, I totally get you. But like today, we are not related, but we get along just great together.
Sure.
And we do that because we've created a common bond outside of being a family. And so what humans did is they were able to create a tribe with strangers and find common threads. And so it's a really interesting book. So Homo Sapiens, I would highly recommend it.
As we are wrapping up, can you share one piece of parting guidance or words of wisdom with our listeners?
Words of wisdom.
Yes.
Think deeply about things. Don't take information for face value, and don't compromise your beliefs. Don't compromise your values. Stand up for what you believe in, and you will be uncomfortable, and it will be scary, but do it because you will grow through being uncomfortable and being afraid, and you should have the ability to look back on your life and go, man, that scared the heck out of me. But I did it. And for you to do that, I think it's the best thing you can give to yourself and your family and your community that's around you.
It's good. I like it. If our listeners want to find out more about the Junction Association or connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
You can go to our website, and the main website for the Junction Association is WSJunction, like West Seattle, junction.org. For the Art Walk, you can go to westseattleartwalk.org. The movies is, I think it's wsmovies.org or westseattlemovies.org. I can't remember off the top of my noodle.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll put
Find
the show
it.
notes.
And then our new West Seattle Resource Roundup, where you can find other neighborhood groups and all of our nonprofits listed, and a link to our report that we conducted last year is wsresourceroundup.org. .com.
.com. Okay.
Yes.
Roundup.com.
Yes.
All right. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for your time, Laura.
Thank
This
you.
has been great. So much fun. I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. Make sure to go check out those resources. If you want a sense of community, feel free to volunteer. West Seattle has so many great different nonprofits in the area. As you're saying in your book, Homo sapien, we can band together around something other than just family and make our own tribe.
Make your own tribes. I like that. Yep.
Thank you, Laura.
All right. Thank you very much.
That wraps up this week's episode. Make sure to check out our guest website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they are doing. If you have any questions, know someone who should be a guest on here, or has a great story worth sharing, email me at christianharris@seatown.com. That's sea-town.com. I would also love it if you would go to iTunes and give us a review and a nice 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on great guests and provide exceptional content, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rank well in iTunes so others can find and enjoy the show. You can also find out more about me, how my real estate brokerage is breaking the mold and making a difference in our Seattle communities, and other projects I'm working on by visiting seatown.com, sea-town.com. Thanks for listening. The music for our podcast is courtesy of The Fascination Movement. You can find their albums in the iTunes Store. You can also listen to more episodes and find all our show notes on our website at seatownpodcast.com. This has been a Seatown Media production.